Welcome back to Book Break, and get ready to get surprised because I'm going to recommend 9 books in this video with big plot twists that you will never see coming. And I'm starting with a big one. This is the book that everyone is going to be talking about this month because of the new Netflix movie. This is Luckiest Girl Alive by Jessica Knoll. The movie is starring Mila Kunis. It looks incredible. So I just reread this book in preparation for watching the film, and it surprised me just as much as the first time. Even though obviously I remembered some of the big twists and turns, there were still so many things in here that shocked me. We know that our main character, Arnie Finelli, has a dark past. We meet her in the present day when she's got this very carefully curated image. She's engaged to a man that she doesn't seem to like very much. She's got a high-profile job, and she's currently getting involved in a documentary that is going to explore something that happened to her many years ago. We don't yet know what it was, but we know that her fiancé is very reluctant for all that to get brought up again. And so the book flashes back and forwards in time, and each time we go back, we learn a little bit more about what happened to Arnie as a teenager. I'm warning, it is dark. I'm not going to give content warnings in the video in case there are people who don't want spoilers, but I will put them in the description box below so you can check them out because there's a lot of disturbing content in this book. But believe me when I say there are twists and turns on every page of this book, and get ready for a main character that you won't necessarily like very much at first, but the more you learn about her, the more you realise she is a total badass survivor, and you start to really root for her as she goes on this journey of discovering her own strength. Let me know in the comments below if you have seen the film yet and what you thought. I've been excited about this movie for years. And talking of big twists, Daisy Darker by Alice Feeney has such a big twist that I never saw coming in a million years. The premise of this book is familiar. It's an Agatha Christie-esque story about a family reuniting for the first time in years in a house on a remote island that for 8 hours at a time is completely cut off from the mainland. So when the tide comes in, the family are stranded, and one by one they begin to die. So that premise, already fantastic, it's a classic, but what this book does with it is not what you're expecting. I promise. You did not guess what's going to happen in this book. The Majesties by Tiffany Tsao is the story of 2 girls, 2 sisters who are from a wealthy Chinese-Indonesian family. They grew up very close as sisters, but now Gwendolyn is in a coma, the sole survivor of Estella poisoning their entire family. And I do mean their entire family. 300 people have died. So as Gwendolyn struggles to regain consciousness, she's desperately retracing her memories of their shared history to try and work out what led to this terrible act. And you get some big revelations, some hard truths, and lots of twists and turns towards the end. The Interview by C.M. Ewan. I have told you the premise of this book in videos before. I'll remind you. This is about a woman called Kate who is summoned for an interview for her dream job at 5 p.m. at the end of the day, just as people are starting to go home, in a very fancy office 13 floors up. But midway through the interview, it starts to take a strange turn. The questions get more and more disturbing, and Kate realizes that she is in fact trapped and alone in this office. So it's a very, very tense premise. What I maybe haven't stressed enough before is that as well as racing against the clock to find out if Kate can make it out of this situation, you are also solving the mystery of how she ended up in this situation in the first place. And there are some big reveals. The Golden Couple by Greer Hendricks and Sarah Pekkanen is another one that you've probably heard me introduce a lot. So this is about a married couple who go to a marriage counsellor. Only this particular counsellor has had her license taken away because of her very controversial methods. Very unconventional, shall we say. But this couple are absolutely willing to try anything, and so they come to give her a try. As you can imagine, with this kind of setup, every single one of these characters is hiding something, but in fact hiding a lot, and it will all come out in this book and absolutely blow you away. The Cutting Season by Attica Locke is about a woman called Karen who is the manager of Belle V, a historic plantation house where she's worked for several years. But on this particular morning, the gardener calls her to say he has found something terrible in the grounds, the body of a dead girl. And once the police investigation kicks off, Karen keeps discovering truths that she would rather not have known about the dead girl's story, but also about Bellevue itself, its dark history, but also, more disturbingly, its future. So it's a really political thriller that confronts race and the law and the history of the American South, as well as being this really engaging mystery that you're racing to solve. The Club by Ellery Lloyd is a thriller set in an exclusive private members club. And right from the beginning, when you're shown an extract of a Vanity Fair article, you know that something terrible has happened on the opening weekend. And then you go back and watch it play out. And this club is being launched on a private, remote island. And so tensions are running really, really high as you wait for disaster to strike. But along the way, you get so many reveals about the members of the club, about the people who run the club, and this whole seedy underworld to the seemingly glamorous lifestyles of the rich and the famous. I started reading this book feeling really jealous of their luxury holiday, and I entered the book feeling very glad that I wasn't there. I actually filmed my whole reading process of this book, so I'll link to that vlog below. You can watch me react to the plot twists in real time, but with no spoilers, I promise. Into the Dark by Fiona Cummins kicks off with a really compelling mystery. A whole family have vanished, seemingly into thin air. Their house is discovered with breakfast still warm on the table. And the book then jumps back and forth in time a lot. You go back a few days, you go back a few months, you go forward a few days. And so you are doing the work to piece together this puzzle of what happened. And you really don't know who to trust along the way. Can you trust the best friend who discovered the family went missing? Can you trust the detective assigned to the case who seems to have an unhealthy interest in the cases that he takes on beyond what his job really should cover? Can you even trust the family who went missing themselves? I'm going to say that as twist after twist is revealed, you very quickly realize the answer to all of those is no. And finally, I thought I'd finish up with a classic, The Honjin Murders by Seishi Yokomizo, which is a Japanese locked room mystery from the 40s. A bride and groom have been murdered on their wedding night, with absolutely no trace of anyone having come in or out of the house where they were staying. And I tried so hard to solve this one before the reveal, but I stood absolutely no chance. Every twist took me by surprise. And this book is also really fun because the characters themselves talk about mystery tropes, so it's got this really meta approach to solving the crime, referring to other popular mystery books and the flaws perhaps in their endings before coming up with something even cleverer than any of them. So I am willing to bet that every single one of those books will take you by surprise. And do leave me a comment below letting me know if you've read them, was I right or wrong? And if you want more recommendations like this, I will link here to a video I made before, also about even more books with twists that change everything. So if you would like to read more twisty tiny books, do click through and watch that one, and I'll see you next time.